Felicity Jones, the title of this movie is actually the title of a Stephen Hawking book, The Theory of Everything, but it's based on a book by Jane Wilde called Traveling to Infinity. Explain that.
Yes. So yes, the film is based on Jane's book, and Jane, after Stephen and Jane split up, she wrote a very detailed book about who they were and their relationship, and then the screenplay came from that book and came from many discussions between the writer Anthony McCartan and Jane, and wanting to tell their story through Jane's perspective.
And what did you learn seeing that story through those eyes?
Oh, wow. I mean, I learned, well, the book became a major document, you know, as it would be throughout making the film. It was something that I came back to continually because Jane has a very detailed analytical mind, and she has this extraordinary memory. So she remembers very specific details. So it was great as an actress to be doing a scene, you know, in 1972 and to know exactly what she was thinking and feeling at that time. And that with this kind of project, which is very performance driven, being able to have that material to inhabit someone so entirely is fantastic.
She falls in love with him before he's diagnosed with ALS, and she stays with him when she hears these dark days are coming. Why does she stay?
She stays primarily because she falls in love with him. It's a non-logical feeling, and I felt that very strongly in reading the script. You know, early on I wrote love on the cover and circled it. It is a first love. It's a very passionate love, but also Jane. There is something about Jane. She has this level of commitment. She's someone who's not wishy-washy. She doesn't change her mind. When she puts her mind to something, she does it thoroughly and with full commitment. And actually that was something that I noticed when I met her. There was something about the army general about Jane. You know, she really commands a room. She manages to do it in a very light way, you know, with this very sort of sweet voice. And that combination of this strength and power, but with a lightness at the same time was so key. And particularly in that scene with Stephen's father, it was about Jane going into battle in some ways, and she saying to the family, to everyone around Stephen, we're going to make sure Stephen survives. And she decided on that, and she stuck with that throughout their relationship.
But she's not only tested by his physical problems, but pretty soon fame and money become issues and obstacles.
Absolutely, absolutely. And interestingly, she used to call physics the other woman. You know, that the idea that well, it's this thing that often in relationships, you know, particularly with Jane and Stephen, they're both people who have strong careers and both had academic identities, so they were trying to have their own personalities, but be in a relationship at the same time, and fame and success, it did put a pressure on their relationship without a doubt.
Tell us about the real Jane, because you had a chance to interact with her quite a bit, right?
Yes, very much. Well, I was nervous in meeting her because I knew she was going to be seeing the film at some point, and instinctively it was just all about building up trust between us, and that's a careful thing, and actually it just started with having a cup of tea with her, in true English way, you know, and getting to understand this woman. I had the book, which was a great resource for understanding her psychological reasonings for things, but what was great about meeting Jane was seeing the way she moved and the way she spoke and the way she presented herself, so that I could work with a dialect coach and a movement coach and an acting coach to inhabit this woman on all fronts. You know, it was a full frontal attack on understanding who she was.
And what does she think of the film?
We spoke on the telephone recently, and she is very complimentary about it. She's coming to the premiere as well in London.
And so is Stephen, right?
And so is Stephen,
okay.
Which is to have their support. That was so important with this film, that they were pleased with the outcome, because they are extraordinary, and we wanted to do them justice.
And what is she doing today? bring us up to date on her.
Oh, she's a complete technophobe. So you'll email her and then I won't hear for her for months. And she's someone who travels very widely. She studied, her thesis was on Spanish literature. So she loves going to Spain. She loves going to France. She's someone who, this is what I felt about her. She really has a balanced life, has her priorities, and she knows that family and exploring the world are very important things.
Do you have a favorite scene in the movie?
My favorite scene, often the favorite scene, the scene that I thought was important for us to get right was the moment with the spelling board, when Jane is holding the spelling board, and that scene is, I feel, the moment when they break up. It's when the relationship, they just can't go on anymore, and the fact and the way Anthony had written it, that they're with this pathetic spelling board, they're trying to communicate, but the irony that communication has completely gone between this couple, it was important to try and get that, so that when they do eventually break up, what's so upsetting about that moment is that they still have huge amounts of love for each other, but they just can't go on anymore. They've reached the end.
How many years were they together?
They were together for 25 years.
Wow.
And constantly, it's in many ways, it's a film about how do you make a relationship survive? What do you do? And this was a couple who just adapted to scenarios and situations in really unconventional ways, in this very un-English way of having a three-person relationship at one point. And that was about ensuring the family stayed together. Jane felt very strongly about that people from the outside were very judgmental of them, but they just thought, we don't care. If this is a way for us to stay as a unit, then this is how we'll live.
There's so much thrilling science in this movie and in this man's life. Were you turned on by that at all? I mean, this whole business of, it gets a little complicated selling it to the movie viewer of the theory of relativity versus quantum mechanics and the rest of it. But when you kind of push through all that and you understand what they're going for, this is a movie about big ideas.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what I liked when I read the script, is that it wasn't just a story about a relationship. It is that, but also it's constantly asking these bigger questions of why are we here, and what does it mean to be here, and that it was a film that was functioning on those two levels. That's what I absolutely loved about it, and James Marsh, the director, handles that so, I feel, very, very, in a very sophisticated way.
The music of this movie is extraordinary, isn't it? It's beautifully underscored, and it moves you through the drama in such a wonderful way.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And actually, there's just been an album released of the music, so if anyone really likes it, they can buy it. Yeah, extraordinary. And again, I like the music that it's not that sometimes there's that awful cheesy score that you get throughout the whole of film. There's still something with an edge. The music has there's not saccharine in any way. I like that it's pushing you as an audience member in